All right, we're live. Hey, we didn't see you last week because we were all about the election last week, and I guess we're still waiting for the election to turn out, but we won't talk about that. No religion, no politics, right? So this week, I've been working on a project, and I've had to do some research, so I thought I'd share some of that research with you. I had a patient a couple of years ago that was in a really bad car accident, very severe whiplash injury, and she needed a lot of care. And so, of course, State Farm Insurance, they look for things that look out of the norm, and since this gal had a little more care than what is normal for a whiplash injury, then they red flagged it, and they don't want to pay. They think it's excessive treatment. So we have to go to court. And in this, the court, the attorney that represents State Farm Insurance, they hire an expert witness. Okay, and so in the chiropractic profession, we call this expert witness a chiropractic prostitute. Can you say that? So they basically chiropractors that go against their brother chiropractors, kind of stab them in the back a little bit. So what he does is he reviews my file, and then he tries to find everything wrong with the file that he can to sway a jury to believe that this gal shouldn't get her bills paid or get any money. It's kind of low down and dirty, but State Farm has gotten a little too big. Anyway. So my job this week has been to write a rebuttal to this other chiropractor's trashing of the notes. So just in doing so, I've been doing some research because I don't want to just do a rebuttal that says, in my opinion. I want to do a rebuttal that says, according to this journal article and this journal article, and so that's what I've been up to. So what's interesting is part of the research I did, I came across these cool research articles that there's two orthopedic surgeons in the UK that was studying chronic whiplash injuries. So people that had been in a car accident, hit from behind, caused whiplash injury to the neck. By the way, whiplash injury is an inertial injury. So since the 1600s, Sir Isaac Newton described inertia, and we've found through research that a whiplash injury is an inertial injury. And so the forces generated in an accident have little to do with the amount of damage or the amount of crushing to a vehicle as much as the amount of the inertial injury. So you're supposed to have, so if I turn sideways, I should have a forward curve in my neck. A lot of people have lost that forward curve. They call it text neck so much so the time we're on our cell phones now, and it's really damaged the proper curve in your neck that you're supposed to have. But when you're in a car accident and you get whipped like this, what they've been able to realize is that it actually puts a double curve in your neck during the accident. It whips it and really does a lot of soft tissue injury, and depending on how severe it is. So this gal that we're talking about was rear-ended on the freeway. And so it is kind of silly that State Farm is trying to get out of paying when it's pretty obvious she got rear-ended. It wasn't her fault. The car behind her was totaled. There was $7,000 of damage done to her car, but this gal was really hurt. So we took care of her. We got her as better as we could, the best we could, and now we're fighting for her. But so this inertial injury happened. There was these two doctors in the UK that were doing research on chronic whiplash injuries. And so they had 28 subjects, and these 28 people had been in a car accident a couple years before, and they had failed physical therapy, and they had failed pain management. And there's still chronic pain and decreased range of motion, stiff neck, not doing good. All 28 of these patients were subjected to chiropractic care. So they got a series of adjustments, and what the two orthopedic surgeons that did it, that what they found was that 90% of the subjects, of the patients, had significant improvement in range of motion and in decreased pain. A lot of them were completely out of pain, but the great majority of them was significantly decreased pain. But when you increase range of motion, you decrease pain. One of the things that happens all the time is people come in and they say, "Hey doc, my back is out." And so I used to just say, "Great, lay down and let's adjust you." But it's really doing a disservice when I just let that go and I don't teach a little bit, because what's really happened is when someone comes into the chiropractor with back pain, for the great majority of the time, the bones are stuck, not out of place, but stuck. And when a joint isn't moving properly, it becomes inflamed. And of course, that's the pain mechanism. They call it the pain gate. And so you get inflammation, you get pain. And restoring the normal function of the spine you restore that normal function, you get the joint moving properly, and the inflammation goes away. And that's why chiropractic works so well. So not necessarily that the spine is out of place. So I digress. So these two orthopedists that did the 28 subjects, they came under scrutiny. Of course, the powers that be didn't like that study, so they challenged it. So what they did was 3 years later, they redid the study, and they broadened their search, and they had over 100 patients this time, and they did the same thing. And this time, the same results, over 90% improvement, significant improvement in range of motion, significant decrease in pain. And this one got printed in a peer-reviewed journal and is now on PubMed in the National Library of Medicine. If you don't know what PubMed is the search engine for the National Library of Medicine. So all countries in the world use and respect the National Library of Medicine for the United States of Arizona, or United States of America, not Arizona. We haven't defected yet. So PubMed search engine, anybody can go type in PubMed and do a search and do research on different articles. And that's what I've done this week too, just looking for different articles for this rebuttal that I have to do. But it's interesting, just the normal restoration of the function of joints has a significant effect on people. Now, when you think about what really happens when you do a chiropractic adjustment, there's just the mechanical aspect of it, that you improve range of motion and decrease inflammation. But then when you think about the effects it has on the nervous system controls every system of your body. And so what influence will it have on all the systems of the body if the brain and the body are communicating properly? So you have your brain that runs all the other systems. It uses the nervous system to communicate and to coordinate the function of all the systems, needs lots of feedback so that it can give proper output, give feedback back to the body, and it uses the nervous system. Well, virtually every nerve in the body passes through the spine. So when chiropractors are taking care of the spine, they're literally taking care of the communication system of the body. And of course, Big Pharma doesn't really like chiropractors, because when people get better, they take less drugs. And we always like to teach people healthy things and to not take more drugs. So some of the other research articles that I came across, I thought I'd share with you a few things about supplements. So longevity supplements, omega-3 fatty acids. This Dr. Murphy that I listen to a lot talks about how important it is to take vitamins. He was asked, can't we get what we need from the foods that we eat? And he said, yes, if you eat 3 times the amount of food, fruits and vegetables, that your grandparents did. So back in the 40s and 50s, our soils were good, and they were full of nutrients, and the farmers worked the fields in such a way that they restored the soils. They'd rotate their crops, and they understood these things. But with the advent of the chemical farming, Monsanto and the like, they have these massive farms, and they use chemical farming. And those chemicals have depleted the soils of the important nutrients and nitrates. And so now research shows that you'd have to eat 3 times as much as your grandparents did to get the same nutrients from your fruits and vegetables. And of course that would include the meats as well, because the animals eat the food that's depleted. So supplementation is a good idea. Not only is it a good idea, it's if you want to have longevity and health, you need a supplement. So a good multivitamin mineral is a good idea. This just in, and this is something I learned just this week, is that you want to read the label on your multivitamin and make sure that it is copper and iron free. Kind of look in there, no copper, no iron. I know everybody says we're supposed to take 1 a day plus iron. We get plenty of iron. We don't need extra iron. So so you need a multivitamin mineral combination that contains a complement of the B vitamins and selenium and the other trace minerals. Magnesium, manganese, potassium, sodium. But try to get copper-free and iron-free if you can. And then the omega-3 fatty acids, most of the foods that we eat are very high in the omega-6s and the omega-9s. And we really should work towards having a more 1-to-1 ratio. Many people's diets are a 1-to-20, 1-to-16, some even 1-to-50 ratio, where you have 1 omega-3 amino acid for every 20 or more 6s and 9s, and that's unhealthy. That's not good for you. So supplementing with omega-3s is a great idea. Highly recommended. I take it all in a packet. So I have a supplement, multivitamin supplement that has everything in a packet. So it's not just one tablet, but it has several in there, so I can get my vitamin E, my omegas, and my multis all in one, and the vitamin D3. So also antioxidants is a great idea to protect from the free radicals. Vitamin D3, very, very important. Vitamin D3 especially. We've talked quite a bit about vitamin D3 during the Rona, the deadly virus that's not so deadly because the cases are increasing but the deaths aren't. So if this was such a deadly virus and the cases are increasing, why aren't the deaths increasing? And yet the deaths are going down. The plain truth is doctors have pretty much figured out how to treat this. It's not a deadly disease. It is a contagious disease. Big difference from deadly. Contagious, big difference. So we're getting more cases. That's good. That means we're working towards herd immunity, and we can move on with their lives. We don't need a vaccine, but that's of course why they're keeping this thing alive and trying to keep everybody freaked out so that they'll line up for that vaccine, because they stand to make big bucks from that. So, but vitamin D3 is very important. Not only does it decrease inflammation, but it increases immune function. Very important. Magnesium, good. Vitamin K2, very important. People come into me all the time and said, hey, my doctor told me to don't take calcium supplements for my bones because it'll end up in my arteries. And I said, well, that is true. If you take just lots of calcium, some of it will end up in your arteries unless you're taking vitamin K2. And if you take vitamin K2, then those things won't end up in your arteries. CoQ10, very important part of the Krebs cycle where we're creating energy, the ATP in the cell. You need to keep your mitochondrial health up. Here's another thing about vitamin D for inflammation, decreases inflammation, very important in that process. When you're low in vitamin D and you have inflammation, your body's not processing that inflammation. So you need to stay hydrated and take vitamin D. Let's see here if there's anything else, little morsels, more vitamin D research that I came across. Let's see, here's this other one here. Where was it? Fibromyalgia symptoms following. Okay, so what they did was at the Veterans Affairs, this is back in 2001, so people with fibromyalgia. They took people with fibromyalgia and they said, if you would just stop with the dietary excitotoxins, your pain would go down. So people say, well, what is a dietary excitotoxin? So the two most common dietary excitotoxins are MSG and aspartame. So MSG, monosodium glutamate, a neuroexcitotoxin is when you eat food that has MSG in it, it actually excites your nerves that perceive taste. And so it literally tricks your body into thinking that the food tastes better than it really does. And so, of course, food manufacturers figured out if they stuck MSG in the food that people bought more of the food. And so they were putting that in there until enough people threw a fit and Congress started to limit MSG, or at least had to label it. I think that's what it is. They had to label it. And so once people got educated about MSG and all the problems that it causes, they would start reading labels, and you'll notice Chinese food places that say no MSG free, come on in. But these excitotoxins are bad for you, and they also they're very inflammatory. So people with fibromyalgia, that they just hurt everywhere, their inflammation is just out of control, it was recommended that they stopped their dietary sources of the MSG and the aspartame. So we're talking about aspartame, that's your diet soda. Diet soda, bad news. They're excitatory neurotransmitters. The conclusion, the elimination of MSG and other excitotoxins from the diets of patients with fibromyalgia, dramatic results in several patients. Some of them had other toxins that were causing them problems, but quite a few patients had dramatic drops in their pain. Omega-3s, talks about the omega-3 ratios, very good. More about omega-3s. Let's see, go up there. There was one more about aspartame. Oh, lymphoma and leukemia in men and women. Consumption of artificial sweeteners in association with aspartame. Interesting. What they showed, and this was Women's Hospital, Harvard Medical School is where this was done. Harvard Medical School, so that's cool. It's got a little bit of notoriety, I'd say. So men in this study that had one or more servings of diet soda had increased risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and even a greater increased risk of multiple myeloma. That's the scary cancer, multiple myeloma. That one gets you quick. Women, it wasn't quite as bad, they found, because women's estrogens protect them a little bit. But men, there's an enzyme that men have more of than women that converts aspartame into formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is embalming fluid. It's used in embalming fluid, and if you know any morticians, ask them about the embalming fluid and if they should touch it or sniff it or drink it, and they'll tell you, no, it's an egregious carcinogen. But you diet soda drinkers, watch out. Huge increase incidence of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and multiple myeloma in diet soda drinkers. Coca-Cola probably didn't want you to know about that. But interesting, just thought I'd share some of the things I learned this week while I was doing my rebuttal. Somebody asked how much vitamin D, how many milligrams of D3 per day. 5 to 10,000 units per day is good for vitamin D3. Make sure it's D3. Alrighty. There was another graph in here that showed for kids. Let me see here. That's something too you can Google. The D3, of course, is part of the, I can't find it, but D3 is very good for the immune system and has helped a lot of coronavirus patients to deal. Oh, here you go. Vitamin D3 for infants, 400 IUs per day for infants. Pre-puberty, 2,500 IUs per day in children, pre-puberty, and for adults, 500 IUs per day. And some people say you can take more than that, but did I say 500? I meant 5,000. So 400 in infants, 2,500 for children, and 5,000 IUs for adults. Very good. There you go. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, if you're ever in a car accident, please go see a chiropractor. Very important to get a series of adjustments. The ligaments in your neck will begin to heal immediately. Your body heals itself, but they'll heal with scar tissue. That's one of the most important things about the adjustments. And these orthopedic surgeons from the UK realized that the adjustments are what makes the difference. These are patients that all failed physical therapy and they failed pain management and chronic pain, and 90% of them got significant improvement from just chiropractic adjustments. And so keeping those joints healthy keeps your nervous system healthy and keeps you healthy. So thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll quit about 5 minutes early tonight. Appreciate you guys getting on, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.